Hello, good morning. Welcome to the show. It is October 27th, 2024. It is, it's the closest thing to a Halloween episode. I had a whole costume and was ready to put it on, and then we had technical issues, so I didn't have the time. So instead I have a black cat at least. But thank you all so much for joining me. I am very, very excited. Regular guest at this point, friend of the show, personal friend of mine, Secular Rarity, Elliot. How's it going, brother?
Hey, it's great, man. I'm excited to be here. I also had a costume prepared.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, there was I it was really intricate. It was really great. I'm sure everybody out there in the audience that knows me knows that I take my costuming very seriously, but unfortunately, there was, a whole demonic uprising that happened in my area. I'm sure you heard about it on the news.
What?
Yeah. Portal opened to hell. A bunch of demons came out, and funny enough, they took my costumes, and so that's why I'm dressed like this. It's not because right.
You were
it's
too busy
because,
partying with the demons that came out of the hell.
Yes.
Got it. You know what? It makes sense.
I figured it was a fair excuse. No. It's not just because you just have crappy T-shirts and crap jeans or anything, Elliot. But yeah, no, it was demons. Demons stole my costume.
Honestly, V and I did a couple's costume this year.
Oh
yeah, I'm really excited. It's the first couple's costume we ever did.
Are you going to tell us? Or are you going to leave us in suspense?
Well, I think it would be mean if I didn't tell you, but we were Frog and Toad.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. Oh my God, I love that.
Me too.
I haven't read Frog and Toad in so freaking long, man.
It was really, really good. Definitely, I feel like queer icons as far as children's stories are concerned. Them and Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie are great.
Yeah. But I don't think we can pull off Bert and Ernie. We just don't have the, Anyway, I think that the Hellmouth thing is actually a really, really good way to segue into topics.
Yeah.
We do already have a caller who wants to talk about being poly, and you're here, which is
nice.
Wonderful. I asked Kyle to call in next time that you're on so that we can have a longer poly talk.
Yeah.
Especially because it says in the notes that Kyle wants to pick on you.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know what I did, but it's probably fair.
See, that is just a hallmark of low self-esteem. I get that so deeply. So deeply. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I probably deserve it. That's fine. Things are, that's fine. But other people who do want to call in, obviously, if you want to talk about what you believe and why, you're always welcome to call in. We do have a call screener who is ready to take calls. So let's get the phone number up here in the newest way we can. How about that?
Oh, snap.
I know, get it in the crawl. But just in case it takes too long, here's the phone number one more time. 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Again, 412-753-7436. You can call. It's toll free, or you can go online and go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. We'd love to have a full episode, and we would love to talk to you. So today's the day to call. Kyle can't talk to us all day unless you just want Elliot and I to tell ghost stories to each other, which I am totally happy to do. And yes, that is something I would love for us to talk about. Ghost stories. It's not just a Christian thing, is it?
No.
Stories about ghosts and supernatural sightings, especially around this time of year, is something that has kind of seems to be a thing in so many different cultures. And it's believers and non-believers alike. There are plenty of wooey non-believers who believe in ghosts. I've talked to atheists who've said, hey, I've had a ghost sighting and I just have no idea how to explain it. And I think today is the day to have those conversations. So if somebody wants to call in and talk about their ghost stories or, what supernatural experiences they may or may not have experienced, today is a really, really good day to do that.
Yeah. I love ghost stories and all of those like creepy bump in the night things, you know, and seeing kind of the similarities and differences that occur from, you know, the different cultures, right? Because with some, I mean, here in the United States, in the South, this time of year for me growing up was often talked about in this, you know, be careful, you know, dangerous stuff, you know, don't play with it too much now. But in a lot of other cultures, the way that they deal with these, you know, passed on relatives or, you know, demons or ghosts or those types of things
Mhm.
is much more in a reverent sense, right? There's much more of a you scratch our back, we scratch your back type of thing. It's
Yeah.
not so much about the they're coming to steal the children and eat you or anything, you know. And that's really cool to see how, you know, a very similar thing has evolved in such a way. But I want to real quick, I want to caution everybody. These are one of those moments that somebody will come up to you and they'll say, well, look, everybody's got ghost stories. Ghosts must be real,
Mhm.
right? I mean, everybody talks about them. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's a human thing. What
Yep.
that is highlighting that super cool aspect about us as humans, where our brain does all this crazy stuff sometimes and we just don't always have good answers for it. That's a human thing to explore, not a magic thing to just put off in a category of we'll never know. Like, no, we can learn a lot more, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said a lot there.
I,
There's so many things I want to talk about, you know, but I don't want to leave Kyle, especially because I wanted Kyle to call in so we could have a longer conversation about polyamory. And if that's not your deal, call in about what you want to talk about because we have open lines. That is the nature of a call-in show. So for now, I am happy to pull in Kyle from Ohio. Kyle, you're live on Skeptic Generation.
Good day. How you?
Doing well, doing well.
Excellent.
Yeah. Can you all hear each other okay?
yeah. What's
Okay.
up, brother?
Hey, not bad. Just make sure that I'm not too loud or too low for you guys.
No, you are sounding really good. Your connection's fantastic. So
These Zoom mics work well.
nice.
Yeah, right.
So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, basically my recent realization about being polyamorous, but I am in a monogamous relationship and those complexities therein.
Oof.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that is tough.
I basically talked to my wife about it because we talk about everything.
Yeah.
And she, like most people, doesn't really have an idea of what it really is. And I was like, look, you know, it's not cheating, you know, with permission. It's not the same, in my opinion, as like an open relationship. And it's not what I'm asking her to do because I made a promise to her to be monogamous.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure she understood that because it's about the trust and communication and people's own ability to be honest with themselves and with their partner. And it's not about being promiscuous either. You know, it's about having multiple individuals. You're in a type of monogamous group, I would say, where everyone agrees and feels comfortable with it and has the, what is it called? When you're secure enough to be in that kind of relationship and the complexities therein.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So it can take forms in many different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not about like I have to do this or that, or you can't do X, Y, Z. It's about what these individuals engaging in this relationship, what they agree to. I know people in poly relationships where every one of, you know, the partners has other partners outside, right? Or doesn't necessarily have other partners, but engages romantically or sexually with other people, right? I know groups where, you know, there's 3 people involved and one of them just really doesn't have any other partners. They really don't engage romantically or sexually with anybody else other than those other 2, and those 2 do. They have other partners and stuff. And it's not because there's a restriction. It's not because like there's a, oh, I'm okay as long as, you know, I can sleep with other people, or, you know, plan life events and grow with this person and so forth, but you can't. Like, no, it's that this person in the polycule has said like, hey, what works best for me is this. And the other person says, hey, cool, what works best for me is this. And where's that middle ground that we both are really comfortable with? And for one person, it's like, hey, honestly, I really like you two, and I'm not really interested in other people, and I'm just not gonna even seek it. And then the other person's like, hey, I really like you both, and I am kind of interested in some other people too. And cool. So however you end up working that out, you know, is going to be something that's okay. There's not a right way, really, but there is a wrong way. I think is, you know, I heard somebody say that once, and I was like, yeah, I think that's a pretty good, you know, way of cutting it.
But the wrong way to do it would be the same exact wrong way to do any relationship. Even in a cis-het relationship, they're not all cookie cutter. You still have to draw out your boundaries and what you both agree or to do or not to do with or for each other or anyone else. And it has to be not egotistical or overbearing, and you know, free and mutual and trusting.
Right.
Ultimately, more than anything, trust. And I think an insecure person has a lot of problems with trust with themselves and others. And I think that's something to be honest with yourself about as well.
Yeah, I would also say though that, so I mean, totally agree with you there. I would also add that there are some preferences in life that some people will just never have, and some people will always have, and there's nothing they can do about it. For whatever reason, and I know I'll get some shit for this, I'm sure, I really don't like shrimp. Like, I just don't want to eat shrimp. I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to try it your way. I've tried it. I just don't like it, you know? That's how I'm probably going to live the rest of my life, you know? And there are some people out there who, they are secure, they are comfortable, they are happy, they have high self-esteem, they're very successful, they're all the boxes are checked, right? That are supposed to be checked. And when you sit down and you ask them, and they say, yeah, I'm not okay with that. That's not comfortable for me. That's okay. That's okay that some people don't ever come to a space where they're comfortable with their partner engaging with other people, right? Like, that's fine. Just like it's fine.
I'm sure everyone can understand that.
Absolutely. And what we're doing is we're making sure that space for what relationships look like, for what relationships are considered normal, right? We're trying to expand that, and let's just make sure that we don't end up closing that back in after we, you know, make some progress, right? Like, let's just make sure we don't go like, oh, the reason that you can't be poly is because you're just insecure, you know, you're not comfortable with yourself.
Oh my God.
Oh, sure. No, I'm not suggesting that really either.
No, and I didn't think you were. But I know some people do.
Yeah, Kyle, you do not you're making an assumption that I'm not as smug as I am. I've gone through many insufferable phases, and that was just one of them.
Where everybody had to be poly, and the only reason that people weren't
is because they have self-esteem issues, because I just projected on freaking everybody. They've
instilled this misogynistic, you know, backwards 200 years thinking. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah. It can absolutely happen. I have seen it happen.
Yeah.
And I got to jump in. It sounds like the two of you are talking about a kind of polyamory that I'm not into. Yeah. So I don't do the throuple thing. I don't like the throuple thing. Yeah. So the idea that three people would be in a relationship together with each other all at the same time. No. I'm way too competitive. And I know this about myself. I do not want to compete to be the favorite because that's not going to help or do anything. And I'm just, I can't, no. And also, I don't know. I very much want my partner and partners to have, those warm, fuzzy love, butterfly feelings as many times as possible. I think that we can love multiple people at once, and we can value and care about each other, and all of that. And also, I want them to have their own people, and they want me to have my own people. Don't get me wrong. I make room in my life and in my heart for the people who my partner makes room in their life and their heart for. But that doesn't mean that I want to have sex with them.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
I'm very competitive as well, but I also am. I'm just that good that I'm not that worried about it.
Damn.
But yeah, it at the same
Must be
time,
nice.
I can understand that approach and that concern. I think also it's not always about sex, like where I think we're headed towards as well. There's types of romantic relationships you can have with people without it being sexual. Just there's a depth there, and the fact that they may be of a sex you're attracted to might deepen that connection or open up that comfort with that person.
yeah.
So
And it's funny because for both of you, it's a different place than where I'm at. Like, I understand those feelings very much, right? I absolutely understand those feelings. Like, I get jealous. Like, it's not like I just live in this world where I'm constantly not jealous or anything, right? But yeah, absolutely. I have all of those same thoughts and feelings, but ultimately at the end of the day, the way that I view this, both in myself and with others, is not about a levels thing. It's not about I like this person more or that person more. Oftentimes it's more just about who I'm spending the most time with physically, right? So it's like a primary partner for me is not in a sense of like hierarchical, but more in a sense of like time management. And so this is the person that gets 75% of my time. This is the person that gets 50% of my
100% agree.
time. Yeah, but again, there's no right really with any of these. It's not that like, oh, Kyle, you're not doing poly right, or Elliot's like achieved some or no, none of that shit. It's just like for Eric, that concept of having multiple people where you're doing that life planning thing, where you're doing that growing together as people and changing and facing challenges and celebrating with each other, all of that is, he has a different view on it. That, and again, it's not like somebody walked up to him and like pounded something into him. Like, he woke up one day, he had feelings.
Let's not take that off the table.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did happen in some other capacities. I'm not,
Anyway.
yeah. Religious trauma, we're all dealing with it, trust me.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just, that's one of the things that I've always tried whenever I'm talking about polyamory or open relationships and stuff. One of the biggest things I'm often trying to get to be like, a lot of times I'll hear people say something like, we're trying polyamory, like I'm trying polyamory. And there's a part of me that dies a little when I hear that, because it's like,
I think that's
just imagine somebody saying that with so many other things we could think of, right?
Exactly. That's what people don't get in our culture, and that's why some people are confused when I tell them I'm polyamorous, but I'm married in a monogamous relationship. Well, then they're like, well, then you're not. I'm like,
welcome. This right here is what it feels like to be bi, but be dating somebody who is the opposite gender.
Yeah.
That's why the trying it thing makes no sense.
And don't. I mean, it's very difficult, obviously, and I can tell you for many years, I had a lot of negative attitudes from other people and a lot of negative comments and things, stuff that, ultimately at the end of the day, I would be the one beating myself over the head with. I'd go home and I'd ask myself why I'm wrong and why I can't understand things the way other people do and so forth. And what I eventually came to was very similar to, like I said about shrimp, man. Like, it wasn't like somebody gave me shrimp and I had some weird bad reaction to it or anything. It wasn't like
thing.
Somebody held me down and was like, you're gonna eat every fucking shrimp on this plate, like, no. And it wasn't that I ever put any effort into it. It wasn't that I ever thought about it and like really worked through it. And like, no, I had something, I ate something, and then I was like, oh, I don't really like the taste of that. And then my buddy goes, oh, well, it's shrimp flavored, man. And I go, oh yeah, that's weird. I don't really like shrimp, And then somebody like made this other thing, and I was eating it and I was like, oh wow, what was that? And they were like, oh, it was shrimp. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't really like that, And so what it came to was just, hey, wait a second. These are feelings and thoughts that came entirely from me. Like I just feel this way. And when somebody comes up and asks me and says, yeah, but Elliot, like, don't you think that, if you're dating some woman and she goes off and starts having sex with a bunch of people, like, doesn't that make you feel like maybe she doesn't like you as much? And it's like, well, no, it doesn't for me. It just doesn't, right? Just like when I have a friend that loves shrimp so fucking much that if you just start casually talking about shrimp, literally by the end of the day, she will be eating shrimp in some capacity, you know?
Gosh.
And like, she just loves it. She fucking loves it. And it's like, again, nobody said to her, like it, don't like it. It's just who she is as a person. And so at the end of the day,
book made her love shrimp.
Yeah, maybe.
I bet it was violent video games that made her love shrimp.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe it
Culture
was because
made her love shrimp.
She wasn't hugged enough as a child by her parents. Maybe that what makes you so, needy for all the people.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's so silly, all of that stuff, because whether or not any of that stuff is the case, at the end of the day, this is still where you found yourself. And where you found yourself is as an individual who recognizes these aspects of you. And that's good, right? Now, where does that go? What is the end result? Like, nobody has any fucking idea, right? Nobody has any idea. But
it depends on the situation.
Right. And funny enough, like you said earlier, the same things actually apply to all poly, all queer, all open, all cis het, all of them, all relationships. Honest communication, listening to your partners involved, genuinely caring about their well-being, and not using them as a means to get to your end goal, right? Those are the standard things that work. It just happens to be the case that because of the nature of a lot of, queer and poly relationships, they require that a little bit more upfront and a little bit more intense.
Yep.
Well,
and
it's more
so
complicated, it's there's a lot fewer assumptions that can be made.
Right.
I just wish I could have discovered or admitted these things to myself as a younger person growing up. It's just the fundamental religion I grew up in just made it so suppressive and just made me feel guilty over it. And I just thought I was some kind of hypersexual pervert.
I honestly, there are other crazy ways to go about this. For me, it was being in a monogamous relationship that was not doing well, and it being a last ditch Hail Mary to open up the relationship.
Yep.
And us both being like, oh, this is not working for either of us. This was crazy. And then after that, I was very open on dates. I was like, you know what? I'm poly. And honestly, just laying the groundwork for that, never looked back. And it's been great. But that was born of some serious cringe. There's an entire season that whenever I think about it, I'm just like, oh gosh, everything about that was awkward and rough. So yeah,
I'm sorry you went through those relationships, man.
I can't help but externalize. My thought is, how many people have had the exact same thing? Because I know that I've had friends who, in a last ditch Hail Mary, tried to open up the relationship as well. And they walked away from it going, oh, I could never do poly. It's like, no, you could just never be with that person, possibly.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I got to ask, what did you want to pick on SR for?
Yeah.
that was your call screener's idea to put it in there. She's like, we'll just say you're there to pick on him because he's so fun. I was like, I don't pick on anyone unless they're trash, and he's definitely not that. But I think
Yeah.
it was just her way to get attention or just to make you pensive. I'm not sure.
I like it. It was
No
good,
worries.
honestly. It was exactly that's why we keep Bree around. I
Yeah,
mean, they
and
know how to
Exactly.
yeah,
get us.
and I don't
But
know if I heard that right, but just in case, Bree's pronouns are Zer actually.
mhm.
I know you can't see that when you're getting call screened, but yeah,
Oh, I actually did see that somewhere once, and I was confused. Those are pronouns I've never heard before.
yeah, you
I'm
know,
still learning this stuff.
oh well,
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those interesting things that I kind of love. I feel like it exposes the arbitrariness of pronouns. Period. I think at some point I kind of personally hit this like gender anarchy kind of thing where I was just like, can we just all be fucking people? Can we just,
Yeah.
like all recognize, understand each other's
You
humanity
know,
and not stigmatize each other's genitals and recognize,
yeah.
perverts as perverts and they're in their own category. Please stop trying to mix anybody together and let's just
Yeah.
live our lives. And I feel like Zer is actually a
You,
really great way to
you
just kind of
growing up,
expose, by using neopronouns. Go ahead.
yeah. Growing up, I learned Japanese, Hebrew, and Spanish, and during all of that,
Oh
I was like,
shit.
why does language have to be like gender based? I don't understand this.
Mm.
And this is way before I was taught anything about there were more than two genders. I was just why does this have to be feminine and this masculine? I don't
Yeah.
understand the utility of it. And then when I
Yeah.
learned about the patriarchy later on, I was like, oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know. So Spanish was something that I had learned young and lost because I didn't use it. And thinking about Spanish in particular and how everything is gendered. Pens and desks
Hmm.
and cars, everything is gendered. It feels like poetry. It feels like what's the word? Anthropomorphization? Is that the
I
word?
use that word a lot because of working with dogs. People turn them into people basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm treating my favorite pen, with a gender, it I don't know breathes life into it in a way that makes it feel like this is my pen. She's fantastic.
It's kind of a brain hack. Humans
Yeah.
really can't connect to something unless we see it as human-like,
Yeah.
and that's why I forgive clients for anthropomorphizing dogs to some extent because they have to. Everyone has to some extent. I just tell them where the line is and when it's more appropriate to and respectful to treat them as an animal and as a dog before it's your dog that you named.
Yeah.
Because there's times where that is not helpful, and there's times where it is. So trying to get that through people's heads is kind of difficult. I call my cars, my vans. They're women, like because they're basically my mistress. They take me away from my wife, and I have to fix them constantly. She hates them like they're my mistresses too.
Okay, don't take that into whatever poly things you might do. In the
Yeah,
future.
yeah. I was gonna say, make sure that
we-
stays well within the realm of like silliness and joking.
It's silly. It's just a joke.
Look. You know what? Everybody thinks they can fix him. It's not. It's not gonna. Anyway, Kyle. Thank you for calling in. I really appreciate you just hanging out with us. This was fun.
I always love this. And
I have a
definitely,
ghost story
man,
too, but I don't want to take up all your time.
No, actually, so let me put the word out there. I do want to talk about ghost stories, and I would love to talk to both of you. Why not about ghost stories? But I also want to open up the phone lines, right? I have a call screen who's ready to talk to people, ready to take calls, and I would love for anyone watching to call in and share your ghost stories. We'd love to hear them. I'm going to put the phone number out there, and then let's keep talking. I'm good with that. Here is the phone number, and actually, you know what? I do have another announcement really quick. Kyle, I'll keep you on the line, but just stay with me, okay?
I got you on mute.
All right. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Again, 412 753-7436, or you can go to tiny.cc/skepgen. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. We would love to talk to you. And you know what? Actually, I think, Kyle, I'm going to pop you back into the screening room just so that Elliot and I can make an announcement, and then I'll bring you back, okay?
Got it.
All right. I should have done this at the top of the episode, and I want to make sure that we do. And I'm going to put the word out again later on this episode. But Elliot, you reached out to me before the show.
Yeah.
And asked me if I can help put out a link and get the word out about something that you're working with, a group that you're working with. And I want to take the time to do that. And I should have done that at the top of the episode. And I think I just got a little too excited and I jumped right into a call, and I apologize.
We were both excited.
Yeah. But I want to give you the chance. Who are you working with? What's going on?
Well, so I have been really lucky over the many years of doing this to get connected to quite a lot of different people. And actually, this whole project has been spearheaded by a member of the online activism space for many years, who I have just had the joy of getting to work with in years past. And we've gotten to work in a bunch of different spaces for a very long time. But this most recent campaign is something that is working with, I just want to pull it up, make sure I get them both right. So the Amarillo Friends of Dolly and Rainbow Railroad partnering with Welcome Corps. So Welcome Corps is a government program which allows private citizens across the U.S. To form sponsor groups to help refugees and asylum seekers resettle safely. So we are helping this wonderful person named Dolly. That's her nickname for safety reasons, obviously. Dolly has been a longtime LGBTQ activist, atheist activist, stand up for free speech. I mean, just absolutely everything that is well within our wheelhouse here. And over the years, because of her beliefs or lack thereof, she has obviously been at risk. She started out in Egypt, a place that definitely you unfortunately can still be murdered, for just being gay, for just saying that you think gay people shouldn't be murdered, right? How dare you ever speak about the Quran not being true or anything? So luckily, through a very similar process, a bunch of wonderful people had helped Dolly get to the Republic of Georgia, which is a little bit better than where she started, but unfortunately still has some really bad stuff. If you haven't paid attention to what's been going on there recently, they actually just had an election the other day, and the very staunchly anti-LGBTQ group, ended up taking over. But long story short, we have finally gotten a really cool opportunity. And one of the things that is so cool about this is one of those moments where, a lot of times it feels like there is just so much going on, and there's no way that just little old me can do jack shit, right? It's like, we need $10 billion, man. Like they've got a bank account that has, the large, it is so difficult to make change right now, it seems. And whenever there is those things out there where
there's no number of us that's going to stand up to an Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos or a.
It always feels like that, right? It always feels like that. Well, I am telling you, this is so fucking achievable, you guys. We are already a tenth of the way there. We need $2,500. That is so fucking achievable. $5 a piece, you guys. We make it in no time. So. And this is, go ahead, please.
No. I was just popping this up. So what's the $2,500 going towards specifically?
So this is all about helping Dolly get over here and to cover the first 90 days of resettlement. So rent, security deposit, utilities, food, public transportation, living, clothing, those types of things. So when she gets here, the team with Rainbow Railroad and Welcome Corps will be helping her get an ID, finding work, permanent housing, so on and so forth. And all of this is listed out in detail on the GoFundMe link. But yeah, this is a totally achievable thing. This is one of we can literally help save somebody's life that has been fighting on the front lines for years now, has been risking their own safety and security for years now. We can do this with $2,500, you guys. That is normally one of those Elon Musk things. That is normally one of those types of things.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled when my buddy Secular Sakai hit me up, a phenomenal person that's been doing this stuff for a long time, and said, "Hey man, we have an opportunity. Is there any way you can get this out there?" And I've reached out to a bunch of people, and you were one of them that instantly responded and was just like, "Hell yeah, man!
Yeah.
You know, we got to get this out there." So I really appreciate you giving me that moment.
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure that the description was updated. So if people are watching and don't see the link, just hit refresh and you'll see it in the description for this video. The link is there to the. Is it a GoFundMe or is it, I took the screenshot? Yeah, it's a GoFundMe.
It's a GoFundMe. Yeah.
And yeah, for people who can, who have the ability, this is Elliot. I trust you, and if you vetted it, I'm in, and I'm definitely hopeful that we can help get some attention there. If anything.
Yeah.
So
it's a really it's something I know they've been working on for a while. I know Sakai hit me up, probably at the beginning of this year, end of last year, and was telling me like, "Hey man, I'm gonna keep you updated as things go. And, whenever we get an opportunity, let's try and grab it." And it's amazing sometimes how much we can actually do. Right.
Yeah.
And those moments, unfortunately, are few and far between sometimes. And it's like, it's really nice to have a win, It feels really good to be able to do something super cool, To see that picture when Dolly is here, in the US, to see that picture when she's around friends, knowing that she's safe, like, that'll be worth everything. So, if you can, guys, just shoot it out there. Just try to get some attention to it, and let's do something good.
I love that. And we are going to be putting, I do want to do another callback to this at the end of the show as well. So let's definitely, I've got everything, queued up so that we can go back and do that at the end of the episode. I had to kind of brighten things up a bit, because I know that's a very heavy topic. There was a major event for one of our most... Caitlin has been a volunteer for... Oh.
I was going to say, sorry, I was just going to say everything. I mean, she's done everything.
Yeah.
She's done everything, right? I mean,
yeah, she and Caitlin's been just an absolute rock when it comes to helping and being supportive and just being a sweet, friendly, kind person. I'm very, very grateful. And Caitlin had a major life event. Caitlin got married.
Yay!
So from all of us here, all of the crew, SKEPGEN, all of the volunteers, we all say congratulations. We love you, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful life together. And that's so exciting. And we hope that your wedding was everything that you wanted it to be, and we're really happy for you.
Just a truly wonderful person. And I have had the real great luck that I've gotten to know her for so long, and she's helped me with so many different things. And it is always thrilling, I think, to see other people happy and doing well. I mean, not to like harp on it, but that's like the poly thing, like that compersion. I'm just saying, guys, like that's some good warm fuzzies you get
Yep.
from that when you see other people doing well and you're just genuinely excited for them. Like they're so happy together. They're so fucking happy together. It's so great. It's so great.
I'm so excited. Yeah. So we definitely wanted to put that out there. Yeah. There are a few more announcements. I know, right? Like there's so much stuff going on and I haven't done any of that stuff. Let me put the scroll back up here. That way, people can kind of see how to call in and all of that while we're talking. But there's been a change on the SKEPGEN Discord as well. So, as the community grows, as the show grows, we, the after show that I try to do after every episode of SKEPGEN, kind of needed to change as well. It's been kind of a very loose hangout, but because, we get more people coming in, not everybody gets the chance to talk and ask questions or anything like that. And so we're going to be in the after show doing something a little more structured. So people can come in and we'll be able to, ask what they want to ask and say what they want to say and get the attention that they want. So, as always, I'm going to be hopping into the after show after this episode. And Elliot, you're welcome to join. I don't know if you've got something you got to go for.
Oh, I'll be there.
But the other thing is, because the show kind of goes anywhere between, an hour and a half and 2 hours, people don't know when to hop into Discord. And so our wonderful Discord mods have decided that they are going to open up the after show 90 minutes after the start of every episode. So if you're on the West Coast, the show starts at 9 a.m., which means that you can hop into the Discord if you would like to join the after show, even if we're still going on at 10:30. You are Central?
Uh-huh.
Right? And Central, that means 11:30? No, 12:30.
It starts. Yeah, 12:30. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd open it up.
So I just wanted to put that out there and say thank you to the volunteers who are making that happen. We really appreciate it. Oh, there are other people who have been reaching out and wanting to volunteer in other positions, and that's been a really, really huge help to the channel. So thank you so much. All right, I think it's time to set the stage here. Let's see if I can get this going. Give me just a second.
Are you gonna conjure up some demons? Are you bringing some ghosts? Oh, do I need to turn some lights out? I can see, I don't have that. Yeah.
Yeah, let me bring this maybe a little more red.
Oh, and then just
There we
take a big rip and let the little vape, smoke. Welcome to Ghost Stories.
Oh yes. All right, let's bring Kyle back in here and have some ghost stories. And again, phone number out. Our call screener is waiting to talk to people, and I would love to talk to you. If you have a ghost story, if you have a supernatural belief, you want to talk about what you believe and why, or have a question for the show, something you wanted to talk about that's been burning, that's something you want to engage with. The phone number is running across the bottom, 412-753-7436 or tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Kyle, let's bring you back in. Hey. Ooh, hold on a second. I've got something for that. Wait for it. I get to use this once a year and I almost forgot. Oh my goodness. I would have been so sad. How was that?
That's
Great.
excellent.
That's awesome.
Yes. Ghost Stories, Skeptic generation. That's a little much. That's okay.
A little too much reverb.
Yeah.
Sounded like SR last time he was on.
Oh no, I know. There were audio issues before this episode as well. I so appreciate people being patient.
There's your tease.
That's fair. We'll take that hit.
I ultimately that one's on me. Yeah, but that's fair. All right. Ghost stories. Who wants to go first? What do we want to talk about?
Well,
or do you want me to
tell you my personal experience?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, 20 years ago, a long time, I was a cable installer working up north, Troy, Ohio, pretty far up there, some really old homes. And a lot of the homes had original, hand-dropped timbers that were still had knots and tree branch pieces sticking off of them underneath, holding up houses.
Ooh.
And scarier than a ghost is when you go down there to run cable and you can push your finger through those.
Yeah, that's not.
And the floor is 6 inches from your face. So that's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was training somebody to do the job. And we went into this one home, and some nice people there, and I could tell they were acting funny. I was like, what are they doing? They're like looking at us and seeing, just watching our facial expressions and everything. And I was like, what are they hiding? What's going on? So we go down to the basement, and I have my tech next to me, my trainee, and I see in the corner there were 3 shadow figures with red eyes in the corner of the basement. Now, when I see these things, I usually don't say anything to anybody for many reasons, also including to make sure I'm just not hallucinating in case they see them too. And my hair stands on end, and I'm a little nervous, and I just ignore it, and I go over and I start working on the cable where the cables come into the house. And right then, my tech's like, dude, really, I didn't want to say anything, but what's over there? I was like, just don't acknowledge them, and they'll probably leave us alone. Everything's fine. And sure enough, we hear a swoosh, and I feel a burst of air on both of us, and I see my trainee's eyes just get huge because he's like right next to me. And next thing I know, I hear a boom, just something punches me in the back so hard it knocks me into the cables. And I hurry up and finish what I'm doing, and we get the F out of there. And then we get upstairs, and the customer's like, "Did you see him?" And I was like, "Yeah, one punched me in the back, dude. What's going on? Why didn't you warn us?" It's like, "We didn't think you'd believe us. Not everyone sees them."
Oh my gosh, you had a personal Babadook experience.
My dog sees them
Poltergeist encounter,
in
like-
McPherson.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my.
downtown Dayton, there's shadow figures in McPherson town, and my dog sees them as well, and I tell him to calm down and leave them alone.
Yeah. Interesting. I honestly think that any naturalistic explanations are scarier than ghosts.
I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't think what I see is supernatural. I think it's just some part of the natural world that we just don't understand.
I mean, the only things that I can think of is that this is a family that had something living down there. That
it is
it could be like a family
So
of possums or something. Like either way, it's freaking scary.
Possum doesn't have knuckles and can't punch somebody 5 feet off the ground, as far as I know.
I have not personally fought a possum, so I do not know. I'm assuming they can put up a fight. They look like they can put up a fight. But anyway.
Well, and this is the one of the issues, of course, with these types of interactions and encounters is because they are so fleeting, right? And because they are oftentimes
Can't predict
very
them.
emotional, right? They make a really, really big impact on us. It's very difficult to get an accurate understanding of what occurred, right?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
and I'm definitely not saying, Kyle, like you're lying, right? Definitely not that, right? But it is possible that instead of being punched, you tripped. Like it is possible that instead of
I was standing still. It didn't trip.
So
And if you trip, it doesn't happen in your back, and you don't feel knuckles, and you don't get pushed into.
Right, but did you really feel knuckles, Kyle? How do you know you felt knuckles? Hang on just a second. Kyle, how do you know you felt knuckles? What do knuckles feel like? You ever tested
I know what knuckles feel like. I was trained in multiple martial arts.
Okay, so how do you know you felt knuckles that day? Did you have bruises? Did you have somebody else with some type of pressure pad on you that indicated the force and shape? You don't know that it was knuckles, but what you've done is you've associated whatever that experience was with being punched. That's what has occurred later on, right?
I know what a fist feels like when I've been punched in the back.
Right, but you have no way to determine if you were actually punched in that moment. But what happens is you now have the story of being punched in that moment. What explains that? But if you weren't actually punched and you were just hit with a gust of air, that explains you feeling like you were punched. Does that make
The
sense?
gust of air doesn't cause pain, and it doesn't feel like being punched by a fist. I'm sorry,
It can.
that's not what happened.
I will say that
I'm not that. I don't bruise easily either. So even if I didn't have a bruise, it doesn't mean I wasn't punched.
I'm right there with you. I don't bruise easy. Even if I'm very, very hurt, I could be like, hey, it hurt, and people.
And if I do, it goes away within an hour.
But there are people in the live chat who are saying that owls actually can get territorial, can have reflection, that can gust air and can womp you pretty hard. So
that could be an explanation. I cannot deny that.
You were punched, Kyle.
I will tell you that the word poultrygeist has now completely worked its way through the live chat.
I mean, that could be. I mean, what I saw was the same thing that my trainee saw was humanoid shadow figures, and he saw the thing swoosh up at me. So I don't know.
Yeah. So
I'm not going to sit here and say I know exactly what happened. I'm just telling you what my experiences are and how they corroborate with real life experiences.
Absolutely. I personally, I think I've had different, ghost stories, but the one that kind of stuck in my mind as an adult the most is I was in middle school, and I was still very Christian, and I actually, my middle school, we did a haunted house at the school. So we decorated a whole room and toured people through, and it was cute. But there was a evil ritual that we were pretending to do, and I was convinced that I brought a demonic presence into my home. And thinking back, the things that I thought that I saw reflected in mirrors behind me were freaky.
Pareidolia.
I had primed myself to think I'm looking for a ghost or a demonic thing, and I saw it everywhere. At night, I thought I could hear scratching coming from the other side of the wall. Well, I did hear scratching. We were poor, but I was convinced that something was trying to break through to the other side. And while I was a born again Christian, I knew the Our Father, just because who doesn't? When you grow up that way. But I didn't know Hail Marys or anything like that. And I remember speaking to a Catholic neighbor because I was too nervous to tell my parents about it. I don't know why. Don't ask. I was a kid. But they gave me a blessed crucifix and taught me Hail Mary. And I would hold on to this crucifix and I'd say Hail Marys and Our Fathers until it went away. And I was convinced that is what did it, that I had a demonic presence, that I had this entire experience, that I found a way to make it go away, and that I did this thing until it went away. And it felt like a full story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. There was a whole through line to it. I know how it started, when it started. I know when it.
It's a great story.
Yeah, and every single piece of that, I look back and I think to myself, oh well, I know what this person's, specifically thinking about my reflection. Right, I was seeing my reflection in mirrors and seeing a scary figure standing behind me. Mm-hmm. I could tell you what color eyes they had. I could tell you what their hairstyle was. I could tell you what clothes they were wearing. But looking back, it was a lot more vague at first.
Mm-hmm. And people in the chat are asking why I stayed to finish the job, and that's because I'm poor and I wouldn't get paid if I didn't finish the job.
Yep.
And I've been punched by real grown men. Much worse than that, so I was like, whatever, I can take it if they keep dishing it out. Yeah.
I that's a different story. but over time, my revisiting the ghost, visions, and I added details after the fact, my brain filled those things in to the degree that I had a very, very convincing story. And it's a story that convinced me. And I think that when I talk to other people who've
Hmm.
had ghost experiences, that it might not have been as detailed, it might not have been as crisp right afterward as it became later, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I've had stories in my mind like that too.
Yeah.
Um,
I wonder if I were to have asked you what the ghost figures looked like immediately after the event and right now, how
mhm.
those ghost figures would differ in the way that they look.
Right.
And if they
Oh no, I promise you, it would have been the same answer. This is the
really,
same thing I've told people before. I've seen these things
But
during
the
my entire
problem
life.
with
I've
that,
seen
Kyle,
some
real
last
quick,
week.
I just have to jump in
Hmm.
because the problem with
Uh-huh.
what you just said is the exact same problem with everybody saying that.
Oh
Man,
sure, I
Kyle, I
understand.
know I put my keys on the counter. Why aren't the keys on the counter? I know I put my keys on the counter. I'm positive I put my keys on the counter. I always put my keys on the counter. How are they in the bathroom? A ghost must have took it, right? No. In fact, we're not that great when it comes to memory. And that
Yeah, I
that
understand
cute
that
little
too.
thing that Eric just talked about is actually
Hmm.
a scientific peer-reviewed experiment that took place over the last 25 years. We did that
Yes,
with
I'm
people
aware
for
of that
9/11.
experiment as well.
We
Hmm.
we got
I use that
people
experiment
to
against
write
believers all the time.
down.
And
Kyle, wait. We
mhm.
got people to write down exactly what they remember from 9/11 the day of. And then we asked them a year later, and the differences were already so stark that it was surprising to the researchers, even. So they continued the
Mhm.
study and they wanted to see how disparate these things would be. And exactly what Eric is describing is what we've demonstrated time and time again. In the
Mhm.
moment, we develop a memory. And then as time goes on, a lot of those details get filled in. And where do those details come from? They don't come from the experience. They come from after the fact, us trying to
Yeah,
put together information. So just the
you're
same
remembering
as
the last
like
time you remembered. You're not actually recalling the instance.
exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the first time you got hit, right? The experience that you had was seeing this thing in the distance and then feeling a force in the back. Now, if we had
and the
grabbed you
gust.
right then and
Don't
there,
forget the gust.
yeah, sorry, the gust as well. Sorry, yes. If we
And
had
I was
asked
pushed
you
into the
right then
wires.
and
I
there,
smashed
if
my
we
face into the wall.
yeah, if we had asked you right then and there, did it feel like somebody pushed you or punched you or a big steel bar hit you, right? Maybe you would have said punched. Maybe, right? Absolutely, possibly. But did the gust of wind happen too? Were the eyes red? Was this happening? Did it at first it feels like a push, but then 2 weeks later it's a punch, you
Mm.
know? And
That
now
that's
we're
that's
5
not the
years
incidence here,
after the
though.
fact and we don't have the ability to go back and see what we said. And so now looking back on this whole experience, because like Eric said, it's a full story. We have the beginning, the middle, and the end. Looking back on it now,
Mm.
we go, oh yeah, it was always like that. I
I,
always got
Yeah,
punched. I
I,
always felt
I
the
know
gust of
about this
wind.
phenomenon you're talking about.
yeah.
I do use it against theists quite frequently. Um, but like I said, I know what the feel of gust of wind is when someone charges at me. I've been in many fights. I know what knuckles feel like. I know what a punch feels like, and I know I didn't trip because I was standing still. I would not have forced myself into the wall. I wasn't even scared of these things. Like I said, I've experienced them so many times that it was mostly my trainee that was scared.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry,
that's
Kyle.
all I know, and that's all I can tell you because I
Yeah.
can't, like I said, present any physical evidence, and that's why I tell people don't take
Right.
eyewitnesses for real evidence.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I experienced, and I guarantee you I'm being as honest and clear as I can be.
I don't think I'm necessarily convinced you today. That it was one thing or another. But yeah, no, talking
Hmm.
about what those experiences are and recognizing that we recreate so much in our head. The Elliot, the way that you described that too, it's difficult. I think that we want perfect answers for things, and
Yeah.
we carry with us this expectation that we should be able to find the answer, the naturalistic explanation to everything. And sometimes we don't have it. And so we're left with an I don't know. And what a lot of people do, like what Elliot and I have been doing for your story, is coming up with plausible naturalistic explanations.
Absolutely.
But we can't go back in time and test them. And so all we're left with
Man, I
is
wish.
I don't know. All we're left with is I don't know. But Kyle, thank you for sharing your ghost story.
Yeah, no problem.
All
That's
right.
all it is.
Hey, take care of yourself. Thank you for calling.
You do. Thanks, guys.
All right. I want to get into some more ghost stories, but I do want to put the phone
Yeah.
number out there because I want more callers. Man, usually we get a whole bunch of people. And today I think it is just a little bit slow. So
They'll all be in the Discord after show.
I know,
That's what they're
right?
waiting for.
I know. I
They're
think I'm realizing that there are probably a lot of people who have ghost stories who might feel nervous or silly about calling in. So, Elliot.
I think, okay,
Yeah.
it is, you shouldn't feel silly. And here's why. That is the mentality that has made children not want to raise their hands and ask a question when they genuinely are confused about something. We need to get into a space in society where being wrong is one of the coolest fucking things you can do. Where being mistaken on something is potentially the greatest thing you could have discovered in your waking days, because that is the only opportunity for you to gain more knowledge. That is the only chance that you are ever going to grow and be a more functioning member for yourself and the rest of the world. So let's be wrong. Let's be wrong. Let's be silly. Let's be incorrect and fix it. Staying wrong is the problem. Being wrong is okay. That's a great opportunity.
I
Push back on me. Tell me I'm wrong,
Oh,
please.
you are, but only in a very pedantic way.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, no, just so holding off on the ghost stories for just a minute. You could definitely be wrong and better functioning.
Okay, fair. I mean, okay,
and you could absolutely be right and be a menace.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think on the right one, I think yes, that's probably more sustainable. I think on the first one, in a short term, you can be wrong and do better for society in a short term. But I fundamentally disagree with the concept of a noble lie. I fundamentally disagree with that. I don't think that ever works.
So
you see what
I believed that until I actually met an apologist who changed my mind.
Oh.
In a debate.
Okay.
At Ohio State University, I debated an apologist named David Wood. And David Wood, his entire claim to fame is that he's a diagnosed psychopath. Mm-hmm. He tried to kill his father. He has in his words, has very violent, tendencies and a very violent history. Has served time actually for doing that. And his reasoning for not going on a killing spree, he says, is his belief in God. I don't think that belief needs to be grounded in reality, but if it's something that's preventing this guy from going on a hatchet spree or something like that, speaking of ghost stories, right? That's scary enough. I think I would prefer for him to, that's not somebody that I'm in a hurry to deconvert.
That's pragmatism, though. I'm not talking about pragmatism. I'm talking about the full picture.
But
I'm talking about.
But if this person's wrong and is a better functioning member of society in the long term,
in a short term, in a short term, that's okay. In the short term, we can say there are individuals who are causing more harm to society, so we don't need to pay attention to some of these individuals as much because of the harm that's occurring over here, right? They're allowed to stay in that space of being incorrect because that incorrectness isn't ultimately causing the degree of suffering and problems in the world. But eventually, if we continue on that path, we'll get down to these people that are still wrong, and that wrongness, that incorrect understanding of reality is what leads to that. So
Okay.
I mean,
so when you say long and
Yeah.
short term, you're not talking about people's lives. You're talking about
no, way longer,
the
shorter,
arc
way
of-
longer and shorter. Yeah, potentially.
Okay, because I was going to say, I'm for the over the course of this person's life, I think that I'm totally fine with them staying a believer for the rest of their natural life.
Agree with that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. And this is a whole deep. We'll argue about this in Discord. Hey guys, did you know we do a Discord after show? It starts 90 minutes after the start of the show. So
Okay.
we got some disagreement, but that's good. Like we're I think largely kind of in the same space. Neither of us, just in case anybody wants to clip any of this shit later on, neither of us are saying truth isn't important, you guys. Like neither of us are saying that. Neither of us are saying go strip every person of their religious beliefs so that they go on a killing spree. But something in the middle.
Which everything else fits in. Thank you, Elliot. Appreciate that. I feel like we can get more specific, but I think if we hash that out, we're not going to have the time for more ghost stories. And like, this is the only episode where we get to do ghost stories. So we're just going to need to have you back on and disagree violently.
We can do that.
Do you want to hash this out? So I think it's we live too far apart for, just fisticuffs. So we're going to need to just do it on air.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not against. Like, I've got some like airline miles.
Yeah,
man. We can meet up.
Just come out. We'll just like,
yeah, man. I've been getting. I don't know. I'm sure you guys can tell. Like, I've been getting swole. Like, look at this. Look how physically fit I am. I'm ready. Like, I can.
I have been putting on bulk. Not discriminating on the kind of bulk, but just saying. All right.
Getting all that mass, baby.
You got it.
Ready to use it.
I'm massive. All right. Let's talk to Sunny before things get more off the rails. Sunny in Indiana, how's it going?
Hey, going great. Thanks for asking. Ghost stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you kind of cue us up while I get your name in the lower third here?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So I don't believe in ghosts anymore. I used to. I'm going to share a story with you guys from one of the reasons that had convinced me that ghosts were so real back when I was younger. I've got a full story for you involving a whole encounter with a local ghost hunting crew that came to investigate after I tipped them off to a potential haunting.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Okay. So my sister had moved into her first house. I was still living with my parents at the time, but she invited me and my other younger sister to come stay at her new place, which we hadn't checked out yet. So the plan was to come over, tour the house, stay the night, have a good time. Got to the house. They told us that we could just go ahead. They were busy cooking stuff in the kitchen, so they said go ahead and just explore on your own. So me, at the time, a 14-year-old who is too obsessed with the Travel Channel ghost shows, starts walking around this admittedly, older style home, creaky wooden staircase, the whole works. And I started working my way up the stairs, and as soon as I got to the top stair, by myself, I felt kind of freaked out. I felt, kind of, creepy. So
Okay.
I turned around and immediately went back downstairs, and I said to my sister, this is going to sound really weird, but is your house haunted? And her face blanched. Like, she looked, like, shocked and horrified. She said, who told you that the house is haunted?
That's not a good sign.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm like, okay, so apparently I'm psychic, right?
Of course. At 14, this tracks.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So apparently some people had told her that the house that she bought was haunted, and they had a local ghost hunting crew, and they were wanting to investigate the place. And she thought that they were just trying to discourage her from buying the house because it was old and cheap. And she was, she thought, these people are lying to me to try to convince me not to buy the house, try to freak me out. But she bought it anyway. But after I had said that, she actually called up that ghost hunting crew that night and invited them over to investigate. And, I was over the moon.
Yeah. I mean, it's like TV, but in real life.
Right? And they have, the equipment, the ghost box thing that says words, where apparently, the ghost is talking to you through the machine.
Yeah.
And it's the creepiest sounding robot voice that you'll ever hear. It'll send shivers down your spine when you hear it. So, of course, they asked me, where did you feel this feeling? What made you think the house was haunted? So I led them to the top of the stairs, and of course, right when we got to the top of the stairs, the machine goes off. And it says, "Don't worry." And then it leads them to the attic. And we go into the attic, and they take a spooky picture in the attic. And later on, they develop the picture. And in the dusty fog of the attic was the figure of a hunched-over old, kind of decrepit-looking old figure looking at the camera. And that cemented my belief in ghosts for a long time.
I would kill to have that picture. I would kill to have that picture because, I
guarantee you they faked it.
Well, but even if they didn't, the first thing that pops into my head is, we talked about priming earlier, right? You prepare yourself to see a thing. And so, just pareidolia, right? Seeing, shapes in, I think I would wonder for the rest of my life what the picture looked like and what I read into it versus what it was. Because, my goodness. Right. And you don't get to experience the catharsis of figuring it out. You're just stuck with it. I don't know. Oh, that is so creepy. Give me the Egon device, from Ghostbusters, the little thing. I'll take that any day. Ghost box, screw that noise.
Yeah. But it
was a good time though. I will never forget that night.
Yeah, and when you're in that space, right? And like Eric has said a bunch, this question mark, right? We don't know the full story here, right? We've got maybe the beginning and maybe the ending, but we're really unsure about this middle, right? And that's unsettling for us as people. And so when somebody comes in, when three people walk through the door, right? And, chick's got this big box in her hand, and all these laptops and microphones and cameras. They come in geared out, man. And dude walks right up to you and he goes, "Hey, I'm my name's Terry, and this is Sarah, and that's Bill. Bill doesn't talk much, but we've been doing this for 10 years. We're professional paranormal investigators. What we're gonna do is we're gonna set this box up, and it's gonna capture electromagnetic. It makes you feel secure, kind of."
I mean, when Kronk is a Ghostbuster, you sounded like Kronk. What Patrick Warburton? That was definitely a Patrick Warburton.
I will totally take that. If anybody wants to compare me to him any day, I will absolutely accept that. But yeah, I mean that makes you feel like that question mark isn't such a mystery anymore. And when they come in and they say, look, if this light turns green, that means whatever. It's like, oh, wow, well, the light turned green, And, they took a picture. Sonny, they took a picture. They showed it to you. They've got physical fucking proof. Of course that makes you.
Oh, yeah.
Of course that makes you say, well, yeah, they must know what they're doing. Look, they took a picture. They set up the box. It makes you feel good. And people use that. That's why grifting works, right? Is because people like that.
I think a lot of them really believe it too. They they kind of get high off their own supply in a sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's what's interesting is in the digital age, everybody who had the honesty to post their ghost pictures online always are severely disappointed when they find that there are photographers who go, "Oh, no, I can tell you why that happened." Or very, very, scary, direct pictures of demons and monsters, people who are proficient in Photoshop, and Google image search can find the original files, and it's so disappointing. So I don't know, maybe it's better that you don't have that photo. You get to hold on to that.
That's true. I got the memory, man.
Yeah, I as long as you're comfortable sitting in that discomfort of I don't know, which is difficult, but to preserve the ghost story, why not? That's not too bad. I'm
pretty confident though that I understand what happened. A new house that I'm not familiar with. I had already filled my brain with so much priming from watching so many ghost hunting shows on TV.
And
I was alone at the top of a creepy, creaky staircase, and I felt uneasy,
And you got to be Nancy Drew.
It was just...
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's amazing.
And the coincidence of the ghost box going off in that moment, kind of awesome. It really feeds that person the ghost story.
Now it's this beautiful, beautiful moment in your life that you get to look back on, and you get to take that experience into everything else. And so the next time you're walking up some creepy fucking stairs and there's some weirdness in the background, right? Or somebody jumps up and goes, "Did you see the ghost too?" You get to now use that past experience, both from that memory of, wow, I remember feeling like this. I remember seeing the light go off on the box and freaking out, or getting the picture and just totally convinced in it. And then also that experience and that understanding of years later where you did this whole kind of deconstruction bit with it, and you went, well, okay, I looked into those things a little bit more, and those are kind of bullshit, so what I felt back then was real, what they showed me was real, but now with a little bit of hindsight, I have that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. That is so awesome to have. And
thank you. I agree. That's why I wanted to share it with you guys too.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Sonny, thank you for calling in. This was fun.
Yeah, I hope you get many more ghost stories. I'm excited. Call in, guys. Seriously, please. I want to hear your stories. Fun.
I've got one more caller in the queue, and I'm excited to take them. And it's still early enough in the show. I'm happy to take more calls and do more ghost stories. So yeah, I hope we get more calls too. Thank you, Sonny. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, you guys have a good one.
You too.
You too. I like when Sonny calls in.
Me too. Sonny is a sweetheart.
It's always a good call.
I do not deserve the amazing community that is built up around the show.
Like you do.
The people here are incredible, and I am so grateful. Like, I'm so grateful.
Well, I mean, look, man, not to turn this into just a deep love fest or anything, but they're all watching anyway, and they're captive audience, so they're just gonna have to deal with it. But that's because of the focus that you and V have had, right? And then as you came back, and I mean, that's a lot of that is because of, I mean, if not all of it is because of you, man. You have made this culture and this environment the reason good people are hanging out, and we got great callers and just a wonderful supportive community is because you have focused on that, man. So absolutely, you have put work into this, So 100%, guys, throw a bunch of love to Eric in the chat, make him feel all embarrassed.
I love you too.
I
feel embarrassed, and I do love you too. I don't know how to handle this. Nachikit in India.
Next call.
You're live on the show. So, how do I pronounce your name?
Nachikit.
Is that okay? We will do our best.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. I just want to reiterate the last point where yes, you have built a very awesome community, and that is very cool. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I realize that I put the abbreviation for Indiana in the United States. Let me just fix that. So Nachikit, I'm very, very curious. It says in the notes, skeptics should be afraid of ghosts, and yes. I'm interested. Talk to me. Talk to us. What's going on?
Yes. And hi to Mr. Rarity also.
Hey.
But no, it's a fun paradox kind of thing I came up with. So I don't have any ghost experiences to relay to you, but I do think that so even if one has an experience with a ghost and one believes and one doesn't believe in ghosts, it will still be scary, right? And I'm not talking about a ghost experience in the sense of, hey, something like I heard a noise somewhere kind of level. Like I'm like full on, you are talking to Mr. Ghost face to face. So
Okay.
at that point, right?
I'm
At
sorry.
that point, either ghosts are real and everything you believe, like physics doesn't make sense now, and like, oh my God, like ghosts are real and I need to contend with that. Or it means that you're having some kind of some kind of mental episode, and you're so out of touch with reality that even though you know logically as a skeptic that ghosts aren't real, that you are having that experience, which is still scary. It's like, am I crazy? Like either ghosts are real or you're going crazy. So it's still pretty scary.
I do want to push back in a few places, but first, if I don't get the joke out of my head, it's not gonna. I love that you said Mr. Ghost, and I absolutely imagine a ghost being like, "Mr. Ghost is my father."
It's a very polite
You
ghost,
can call me Casper.
Call me Spooky.
Yeah,
Please.
But what I would love to reiterate is that these things happen to people regardless of whether or not they're having a mental break. The interesting thing is that we carry this assumption that we are lucid way more often than we are. We as humans are so like, how do I explain this? Have you ever seen Nachiket? Have you ever seen those heat maps where they're studying where people's eyes look when they're walking?
Not, I haven't seen that. But are you like? Is it on the lines of like we have like mirages exist and like kind of thing?
Not quite, but
Okay,
close.
please go.
So
Please go.
no. So you're talking about phenomena where like moisture in the air, humidity, and all of that stuff can create the illusions of water and all of that. That's totally valid, and I don't want to dismiss that at all. But what I'm talking about more is that, let's say you're hiking through, I don't know, the mountains or something like that. You think that you have an idea of what's going on around you, but most of it is put together inside of your head and only inside of your head. So much of your attention is put towards where your foot is going next on the trail that everything else is happening vaguely in the periphery. And our minds are incredible at filling in everything. We take in the smells, we take in the sounds, and we create this model in our brains of where we are. But the fact is, right, I'm looking directly into a camera. And I can vaguely see, you know, the program with Elliot up on one side and the chat here and everything else in this room. But when I'm looking into this camera, realistically, I'm relying on a mental model in my brain of that environment. And so when something happens that I didn't expect, if something started creeping over here, you know, in my periphery where there shouldn't be, whether I want to admit it or not, I would jump out of my skin. I would scare the crap out of me because I'm supposed to be alone down here right now, except for the cat. And so I definitely want to make room for people to talk about these experiences without feeling that there's anything deficient or that there's, you know, a mental break or something like that. And then the other piece that you brought up, Nachiket, that I think is really important is you just brought up like mirages, right?
And just for the record, I was trying to use my words carefully. Like I don't mean to like
no
talk about actual.
So here's the thing: is whether you meant it or not, it created an opportunity to say that, which I think is important.
Please.
So I'm grateful for that opportunity. But I would love to move forward and talk about the next thing, but I've been talking a lot. Did either of you want to respond to that, or can I keep going?
I do have some stuff, but I'll wait. I either want to hear not yet or you.
I have another thing at the end of it. So like, please, both of you, like say your things, man. I'm here to listen.
Delay.
Okay, keep going, Eric. Keep going.
Okay.
Then. Yeah.
So environmental factors. I feel like I'm desaturating the scary, the spookiness of it. But there's something amazing about the way that our brains work, that we create these stories, and it's incredible. If you do want to talk about your brain chemistry, if you do want to talk about things that can influence your perception of the world, your diet, how much food you drink, how much oxygen is getting to your brain. You could be in a place that has very stale air, that has not had very much air circulation, and you may not be getting enough air to your brain in that moment. You might be experiencing any number of things that can cause, like you said, hallucinations, right? You used hallucinations, and I think that people hallucinate more often than I think they want to admit. And I think that we as adults...
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's interesting.
So I know for me, one thing that gets in my mind is if I'm thinking about a song, it can be so powerful that I can swear that it's playing somewhere in the room, that it's just that song is going.
Oh.
Last night, I don't know if anybody knows the song Sex and Violence. No, it is an old punk song.
Okay.
And
I'll look it up.
Check it out. Check it out.
All the lyrics are sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and violence, sex and violence. And I'm just like, yeah, just absolutely having a blast. And I could have sworn you could hear that, there are so many things that can happen that I don't know. I think I want to create room in my world, in my understanding of the world, for that kind of stuff to be understood, because
you're like, hey, I don't trust I can't trust my senses, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to that degree of certainty, right? And that's exactly, that's why I wanted you to keep going, because I knew you'd perfectly set up exactly the thing that I wanted to talk about, which is when you set up this story for us, Nachiket, you said, like, well, when you see the ghost in front of you as a skeptic, right? You've got this experience. You're talking to Mr. Ghost right now.
Yeah,
this isn't.
I'm talking about, it's a visceral experience. It's not. Right. It's not a feeling. It's like, hey, like you are having a conversation, like.
Right. It's really, really intense. There's all these other things to it. It's not just I heard a bump in the night. It's not just something fell off. It's real intense. Okay. So that's what I want to focus on. And the reason I love that example so much is exactly what Eric's talking about. Right. So because we know that there are all of these fundamental flaws when it comes to having an accurate assessment of what those individual experiences are like, no matter how ethereal or how tangible they actually are at the end of the day, we know that we're pretty bad. We're pretty bad at recording all of that. And so where I like to focus is the methodology itself. Let's take a step back from the individual story and ask ourselves, if we had a similar experience in another capacity, instead of a ghost, it was somebody levitating in front of us and then pulling a magical floating orb out of their chest instead of their heart, right? Just all happens right in front of you. Wild, crazy, oh my God, kinds of stories, right?
Yeah.
We have to ask ourselves.
Like you're watching a magic show, let's say.
Well, maybe, right? Maybe you did watch a magic show, but what you saw.
But you're saying you don't know, like you don't know it's a magic show, like you don't.
Sure. You don't know that it's a magic show, right? So during that experience, what you saw was this guy levitating. What you saw was this person being sawed in half. And so later on, you tell people, you say, gosh, that's what I saw. But the issue is, that's not good enough. That evidence alone isn't actually sufficient.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't raise to the bar, so you yourself should not believe it. because that experience
and
falls below the criteria that we accept in every other capacity of life, even when we have these fantastical experiences ourselves, we should still make sure that we're using the same methodology for coming to solid conclusions. And I believe when using that methodology, we would still come to the place of saying, hey, this actually doesn't rise to the level that I accept for everything else, so I shouldn't accept this one either. That's tough, though. That's a really difficult thing because you just had this visceral experience.
I agree with that.
So freaking real.
I agree with that. Like my focus is on how scary it would be in the moment.
Well, you'd
Because
shit your pants.
in the moment you can't train yourself not to be scared. Even if you try to tell yourself, hey, I'm seeing some crazy shit right now. I know ghosts are not real, but man, what the fuck is happening?
Have you ever seen I was gonna say, have you ever seen the phrase "I'm not superstitious," unless it's nighttime and I'm alone. Then I'm a little stitious.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I don't worry about black cats unless one crosses my path as I'm walking down an alley at midnight. Then I'm fucking terrified.
Yeah, I mean, like the little paradox that I had, and I'm calling it a paradox for this reason, is that, hey, like, so you can know that ghosts aren't real, and we have all this, like, I loved what both of you said, by the way. Like, we have this complexity in the way we experience things and perceive things, and like, and the fact that we can assess things later on and like realize that, hey, okay, that experience probably was not supernatural, let's say.
Yes,
but in the moment, if
you're absolutely right.
Like, I'm not talking about just a reflex of like being scared by something weird. I'm talking about the idea that ultimately, like in our day-to-day lives, it is still a scary prospect to think that, to imagine seeing a ghost.
Absolutely.
Because like ultimately it still ends up being scary. Like unless your mind is very calm or something, you're not gonna like just go, okay, it's like I'm seeing something, but it's okay. Like, you know,
right.
That's the idea.
And that is that initial kind of just deep inside you subconscious reaction. I mean, absolutely. That is so core to being human. And that's why it's good that we have this safeguard in place, that we have this system to check after the fact, is because otherwise we'd just all be walking around corners constantly freaked out about everything, because that happens to me in my own house all the time. I turn the corner, I go, what the oh no, shit, that's the curtain. Okay, my bad. You can't live like
that's not the extremely visceral experience that we're talking about, right? Like imagine having a visceral experience with a ghost.
So
that would
it's
be
not a matter of
at that point you would have to second guess that, okay, maybe I need to call someone.
Hang on just a second. Yeah. It's not a matter of kind.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of category difference here. It's a matter of degree here, right? Walking around the corner and seeing something out of the corner of your eye that freaks you out for a second, and then later on you go, oh no, that's just my curtain, is not a different experience than the one where a ghost appears in front of you and you freak out for a few seconds longer. It's just a matter of degree. It's just a matter of how intense that experience is, but they all fall in the same category of, we have this initial visceral reaction to something, and ultimately that clouds our ability in the moment to get a good understanding of what happened. Does that make sense?
So I guess the difference in degree that I'm trying to highlight here is that if the curtain thing happened, where like I just heard a sound or something moved or something, then I could probably rationalize that, hey, okay, just like brain playing tricks, it's fine. Whereas if it's a more visceral experience, that is a potential experience to be scared of, because it's scary. Like, you know, like just hearing a sound somewhere is not as scary. It might lead one to think that there is a ghost there, but like having with the more like, I guess I'm taking it a step backwards, where like just the idea of having an experience of something that is like a really real ghost is scary, right?
Yes. Again, I agree with that in the moment, absolutely. But it is it is in the same category as the hearing the sound in the night. It's just a matter of intensity. The seeing the specific thing you're talking about is a lot higher than that. Oh, I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. But they're in the same category of experience.
And also
I agree with that. Yeah.
And also it's evolutionarily advantageous. I mean,
Yes.
if if you thought you saw a ghost or heard something, it could be a home intruder. It could be somebody breaking into your house. It could be something dangerous happening. And so, whatever visceral reaction you had, fight, flight, or, whatever it is, that I definitely think that, those of our ancestors who thought they saw the lion and ran away didn't get eaten when it actually was a lion. And so it makes sense for us to get it. And I think that regardless of how, how viscerally or how you justify it, understanding that it is a deeply human thing, I think is, I don't know. I don't want anybody to feel like embarrassed because they got
like, I
scared.
mean,
Right.
just to be honest, like my thing wasn't some like this was just a fun puzzle that I thought of, what I mean? Like I'm not walking around in day-to-day life being scared of ghosts, but at the same time, so like that's where this came from. Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah, and I think that I don't know. I think I need to sit with a bit because I think that we could probably come up with so many edge cases that would wind up taking the whole episode. But Nachikit, we appreciate what you brought to the conversation. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, thanks guys. I mean, like it's really fun to talk to you, and just as like a little fact, like I used to be scared of ghosts as a kid, and that went away once I became an atheist. Once the God concept went away, suddenly like even the ghosts were like, hey, like if God isn't real, then of course ghosts aren't real. So that was like,
I'm jealous. I swear when I
that happened to me.
When I left my religion, the God stuff went away and nothing else did. I had to I had to pick it apart piece by piece, and I'm jealous. That's awesome. Thank you for calling in. Take care of yourself.
Thank you guys. Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't lose ghosts right away. They did drop a lot. They did drop a lot. Like when I stopped believing in the whole like God gave us all a soul that's just basically an outline of me, that floats up into heaven and stuff. That made me feel a lot less sure about whether or not ghosts were coming around doing stuff. I still believed in a soul though. Like at that time,
absolutely.
I still believed that was real. It just really, most likely wasn't from this God character or whatever. We probably didn't like go into an afterlife or whatever, really. It was all real, like vague, the soul becomes, it's just pure consciousness and like, spreads out.
And you know exactly what they look like. They've got very gaudy jade jewelry, smell like patchouli, and like a white woman with dreads. The kind of indigo child bullshit. Like that's definitely the path that I took out. The path that I took was fraught with woo.
Man, I used to think birds were talking to me. Not like like, hey Elliot, how are you? But like a bird would land. Near me in the middle of a sentence I was saying to somebody, and I'd just stop and I'd just say, see,
it's a sign.
That right there.
That
right there is the universe talking to me, telling me that I have to go join this soccer team. I have to play soccer with these guys. And it was like, why the fuck does the bird mean that, man? It didn't matter. I could always manipulate it. I'd pass by a house, and it would be, 1, 2, 3, 4 was the address. And I'd be like, oh man, if you multiply 4 and 2,
no.
right? and then you get 8, right? And then you
Right.
divide that by 3, you know, that gives you, and then if you add 1 to it, it gives you this and that. And it never made, there was never like a reason as to why you would multiply or subtract but man.
but like divine numerology and all, you know, or not even divine, but just you know, sacred numbers and all of that is oh my gosh, there are so many wackadoodle books.
And it's Eric,
that.
it's math. It's math. It's real. Look at it.
Okay,
Look at the equations.
Hold on,
it's all real.
Yes, and Pythagoras had a cult.
He did.
Right? Like there have been math cults, math-based cults.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, yesterday V brought me home a new book. I don't know if it's visible or not. Conceptual Mathematics.
Oh.
And I'm just like, ooh, just yes. I would absolutely be primed for the math cult. But all right, let's dive in. We've got another caller. This caller looks like he's a little bit nervous, so be gentle.
We'll be kind. I'll be kind. I'll be good. I swear. I've been good.
David in Washington, you're live on the show.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Secular.
Hello.
Nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. You're in Washington. You're not too far away. I'm in Portland.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've thought about that.
Nice.
I live on Whidbey Island.
I don't know where that is.
So
where is that? I'm going to get us so off topic. I'm sorry, David. Go ahead. I apologize.
That's okay. There's a lot that I would like to talk to you about in the future, so maybe I'll call back sometime. But this story is has been puzzling me. So I'm 65 now. When I was 25 or 23, something like that, my older brother, 17-year-old older brother, died somewhat suddenly and unexpectedly. Long, weird story there. But so at that time, I was much more I was reading Carlos Castaneda and just more into, just like Secular was just saying, the birds were talking to me and stuff.
Yeah.
But he died.
And by the way, you
go ahead.
I was going to say, you can call him Elliot.
Yeah.
Okay, Elliot. Okay.
Whatever you're good with, David.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Secular seems like a odd name, but so after he died, I kept getting this impression, like was significant, like he was inside me, like I love my brother very much, the most important person in my family because of our simpatico. Yeah. And I would feel like just regular me, and then something would happen, and I would feel like regular me with my brother in me. And it would happen like I would be struck by it, right? You know, it wasn't like, it was like, now Bill's here. And we had sort of a struggle of a relationship there for a while, and I was young and stoned,
and he was 17.
Wasn't doing a good job of dealing with it.
Yeah, you were kids.
Yeah, right. So in this, when he visited me, we worked through our relationship, and I felt like, okay, we did it now. You understand. I love you. You know, all that. We worked through it, and that was great. You know, it felt really good to me. And that happened for maybe a week or two, to the point, and this might sound weird, but when I was making love with my partner, he came once, and he came into me, and I was like, hey, this is kind of private. Would you get out? So I'm just saying that to show how strong of a feeling it was.
Yeah.
In subsequent years, I believed that for a long time, that's actually what happened. And then I started just putting it away and not thinking there was anything. I just couldn't have a position on it anymore.
Yeah.
Whether it was true or not true was insignificant in a way. And then not that long ago, I read that many people, after they have a loved one die, see that loved one. Like 40% of people have said, and those studies. But that really made me think. I was just trying to resolve this relationship, and I did resolve it. And I cannot believe that we have consciousness after death. First of all, pragmatically and emotionally, it's horrible to me.
It's like when you think about it enough, it's the scariest idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super weird, and it doesn't fit with my whole sort of philosophical view of the world. But I've always had this experience that sort of sat outside of that.
Yeah.
And I still am not entirely convinced that there wasn't something there wasn't something left of him that was trying to resolve our relationships. I know that our relationship was very important to him also.
Can I take a crack at this?
Yes. That's why I called for your crack at that.
So I think the first thing is that resolved does not mean finished and put away. So personally, my grandmother passed over 10 years ago now. I was the first grandchild, and my grandma adored me. And I adored my grandma. I was a grandma's boy, and I loved her to death. And everyone I ever introduced her to, she loved, because she thought, if my Eric loves you, then I love you, because that's good enough. I still, the memories are so visceral. I can smell and taste when I was sad. She would, go and like put a tortilla on the stove and bring me some butter, like when she passed, my grief was intense. And after several days of not really sleeping and of just deep sadness, crying and crying and crying, and I heard a voice.
Eric, can I ask how old you were at this time?
I was about 20.
You said 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm 37. And I was about 20.
Just curious.
Yeah, no worries. I was about 25-ish. But I heard a voice, and it wasn't my grandma's voice. And the voice said Hashem. And I immediately looked up, what does Hashem mean? Hashem is a Yiddish word of saying God. It's the name, because they don't say God, right? And so I looked up any kind a Jewish call-in line, or a support,
right.
Peer support group, and I was just like, I'm grieving, and I heard Hashem, and the person on the other line was just like, oh my God, I'm crying. Like, it was this really intense moment. I was like, I'm supposed to be Jewish, and it kind of sent me on this entire arc for a while. I don't think I actually heard it. I think that I was grieving. And when you're under that kind of distress, it turns out it's not uncommon for stuff like that to happen. But even now, even after I've gone through all of that and, put all of that to bed personally, I can tell you right now, I can hear my grandmother's voice. I can smell her. There is something so deeply connected with my grandmother, that the way that I approach loving others, and valuing the people in my life is so deeply tied to her that I definitely, when you say that you felt your brother in you, I think that I can't, I'm not you. I didn't have the same feeling that you did, and so I can't say I went through the same thing. That's not fair or appropriate for me to say. But from my own experience, that's what I got, to relate to here. Yeah. And the piece that I came to is I recognize that it wasn't real, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't important. And that doesn't mean that it didn't hold a lot of value in my life. There are a lot of things that aren't real that we hold on to that are valuable and important, and keeping alive the memory of someone that you dearly cared about, holding on to that and using that as a constellation to set your ship by sometimes, especially when you're feeling lost at sea, it's a wonderful, beautiful thing. I don't think that you need to justify whether or not it was real for it to be important to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have what I have out of that experience, and I don't have to make sense with the rest of my life. Doesn't have to fit into my philosophical view of the world or any of that. Yeah. Nor does it prove anything about reality to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you do want, just in the genuine curiosity vein of it, right? If you are saying like, man, I'm still really interested how this could even happen, right? There is some good literature that could help you with this. And the stuff that I would say to look into, of course, is, anything in that like split brain type of stuff, and just and anything in like a schizophrenia type of thing. And I'm not saying this because just like one of our previous callers about with the concept of like, well, maybe you're just going through this mental breakdown, or maybe there's some cognitive failure or something. No. This is something that is actually going on all the freaking time when we think we're completely sober, completely awake, completely lucid. And we feel as if there is this singular locus of control inside of us. We oftentimes will discuss, and this has been talked about like this in the past, like a little person, right? Like there's a little me up here in my forehead somewhere that's sitting at the controls and going like, okay, do that, or say that, or think this, or feel this, or whatever, right? But in reality, what seems to be going on in our brain is there's actually like all these different centers that connect to each other, right? And there's all these different little things going on in each one of them. And sometimes this one center that's really, really focused on emotional response, that's really sending the message a lot fucking harder than that portion of the brain that's really, really focused on like mathematics and logic and get the syllogism exactly. And that's okay. That's okay that happens. This occurs in us on a regular basis. So it's less of a dictatorship where one person comes along in the brain and says, fuck that, this is what we're doing. And it's more of this, kind of democratic thing. It's more of this vying for position and kind of take these two that are similar and maybe squish them together a little bit more and forget about that part of it. But that's the main. So a lot more processing is going on inside of us. And so whenever we have that, like I talk to myself all the fucking time. And oftentimes when I talk to myself, the voice that's coming back to me is slightly different. It doesn't have the same cadence that I speak in. It doesn't have the same focus that my conscious brain seemingly is focused on. And yeah, that's good, because what ends up happening is I kind of have this argument with myself where I have to present my case and the other side gets to present theirs. And that helps me make better decisions. This is what we're doing all the time because our brain is so fucking good at picking up all this information. And so again, when these types of experiences happen to us out of nowhere, it just feels like, oh my God, like my dad's spirit has just jumped inside of me and is saying, well, Elliot, it's a pretty good deal on green beans right now. It's a 10 for 10 deal. You don't actually need green beans at the moment. You've got 3 cans, but it's a really good deal. And within the next month you're going to get, and it's like, oh my God, I'm just channeling my fucking dad right now. In reality,
can I channel your dad a little bit? I think that I could probably.
Yeah. He's great with that, man. You want to get some good deals? He got the coupon clip.
The spiritual financial planner. I'm very like on board with this. Yeah.
You see, it's just those different centers in my brain that are all vying for that kind of supremacy in this moment. And it's not really this one thing directing me all the time. And that's cool because it helps those types of experiences where you say to yourself, man, I really felt like my brother was there. Like I really felt it's your memories. It's all the cool times that you've had with him where you've learned his character. You know how your brother would respond in this moment, right? And so now that piece of you is sending those signals just a little bit harder. And that's what's helping you become you and make the next decision. It's a really, really fascinating, complex as all fuck thing, but it's cool. That's why we don't need magic. That's why I always say we don't need magic. The more we learn about what's actually going on around us, it's fucking brilliant as it is. Yeah. I mean, if you've wrapped your head around all of that and you're not excited by that anymore, fuck, man, fuck me. I don't know what the hell. I don't know.
So you had said that, sorry, Eric, but you had said there was some reference material. I mean, I appreciate all that you said there and agree with pretty much all of it. But I'm just curious what your reference material is that you were referring to.
If you go look up split brain experiments, so there we have many individuals that over the course of us studying stuff, unfortunately, they've had the corpus callosum split.
Yeah,
sure.
I
know a lot about those experiments.
Oh,
yeah, that is a fascinating step into it. That then is a good jumping off point into learning about non-split brains and how those end up functioning. Shannon Q is one of the people I started this journey with because she's very big into brains and stuff. She got me onto the split brain stuff, which would eventually lead me to other people. I think Patricia Churchland is somebody that has definitely talked about a lot cognition and how the brain works, both in the actual tangible physical sense of it, and then in the kind of speculative, what's really going on with some stuff. There's a few other people in that vein too, but if you start going down that route for sure, you'll start doing what I call like the encyclopedia game, where you start reading something and then you get to a word or you get to a person that you've never heard of before, and you just completely stop that, jump to the next thing, and then eventually try to work your way back to that original topic. It'll take a long time, but it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully, David.
I get that. Yeah. What were you going to say, Eric?
No, I'm glad that you guys spoke. I guess it had said in the notes that you were a little nervous about calling in, and my mind immediately went to you being concerned that talking about the memory of your brother and potentially exposing it to a little more skepticism and a little more, talking about kind of the mechanisms around that and all of that it would potentially diminish it. And I think that if anything, Elliot and I want to emphasize to you that in a completely natural world, there's still room for that, and there's still a joy and a wonder and a beauty to embrace, that you don't need to lose the spiritual. You don't need to hold on to the spiritual part to keep that specialness, that it can and is special. And we recognize that and fully understand that you make room in your life for it, and we do too.
Yeah.
Great. I was actually nervous just about talking on the radio or on the
it's kind of scary.
Podcast.
It's kind of scary, isn't it?
Then I looked into it
I'm a
differently.
recluse by nature, so I don't get out much. but but I appreciate what you guys have had to say, and I feel like one, the brain research, and I'm big on it. I love Robert Soblowski's whole series of lectures. I really recommend anybody listen to those. But I'm also somewhat skeptical of trying to reduce reality into human thought. I don't think that's possible, and I think there's more going on. I really don't think my brother spirit was there with me, but mostly that's an aesthetic choice of mine. It felt like that. It felt different than just what you guys describe, but of course it was my experience, which naturally is going to feel different than what somebody describes to you.
Definitely.
So I'm comfortable with it. I feel like, regardless of what was actually happening in reality, I guess you say, I did resolve something with my brother that was important for me to resolve, and that's mainly what I am thinking about. But I just thought it was sort of a weird ghost story or whatever.
Honestly, David, this is the perfect episode to call in about it. I think that it got me in my feels. It got me feeling away. And I'm glad that you're whatever aesthetic you want to put to it, that you're carrying this memory and this love of your brother with you. I think it's beautiful, and really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, I thank you for listening to me and for responding. I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll talk to you later.
Definitely. We got to talk about your panzoism next time.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Take care, David.
Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
I mean...
Oh, shit, I dropped him too quick. Damn it.
We always, you know. I'll just say real quick, just in that vein of having that space for some of these rituals and having that space for, just some of this catharsis. Sometimes it's so wrapped up in spirituality a lot of times, so wrapped up in woo-woo a lot of times, that many of us on the non-religious, secular, skeptic side, we won't engage in it at all. And I think that is a disservice to us, because we are truncating what it means to be a human. We are not allowing ourselves to be as fully flourishing as we can be. When my grandmother passed away, I just barely missed her. I was on the fucking road. I tried so fucking hard. Just barely got there the night before, and she passed away that morning before I woke up. We were going to see her that day, and it wrecked me. I mean, it fucking tore me apart. And the next day, when my dad was able to drive out as well, because we don't, our family's in a different, place, right? And so he gets there and he says to me, look, I talked with the funeral home, and they're almost done preparing her body, and they've told us that we can, if anybody wants to come by and see her, before the service, you can do that. And I said, yes, please, Dad, I have to go. And I sat there and I talked with her for about 30 minutes. And I said all the things I wanted to say to her. And I knew full and well, the entire time, you guys, I looked at my grandmother, held her hand, and said, I know for a fact there's nothing in there. I didn't think that she heard me. I didn't think that there was going to be some beautiful sun ray coming out of the clouds.
Cosmic affirmation.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing like, I didn't think any of that shit was real or was going to happen or anything, but I needed that so badly. I needed so badly to let my grandmother know that I love the fucking shit out of her, because it gave me that opportunity to really deal with this super, super core thing to what it means to be human. It was a ritual. It was a ritual that I took part in there. That's awesome, you guys. The rituals are the rituals are cool. Let's keep that shit. Let's drop all the nonsense woo-woo stuff. A buddy of mine, Dr. Ben and Hell's Bells, just the other day, did a whole stream about secular, non-religious ritual and how important that can be for us, how powerful that is for us as humans, both individually and collectively. That's awesome that you had that moment, David. You had that ritual for you to be able to fully experience what it means to be human and have that catharsis, man. Yeah. Like, it's fine that a ghost didn't actually appear in my fucking room or anything. It's fine that I don't think, my grandmother heard me, because I still had that opportunity to be human. And that's just super cool. Whenever you get those chances, like, don't let them slip by. Take them, embrace them. Definitely. Because it just makes you better. Just makes you better.
I'm not gonna disagree fully. I definitely feel like we ran the gamut of ghost stories.
Yeah.
We had the paranormal poultry potentially, the Nancy Drew type of story. We had a loved one. I love it. I definitely want to go and hang out with people in Discord, but I do want to do a couple of other things first. I want to read the super chats. So let me do that right now, because we got some super chats and I appreciate it. Sean Isherwood sent 3 super chats just to get a full 3-part statement here. And so you sent it in a super chat, so I'm going to read it. I'm going to read all 3. A statement is true in the effective topos F of the Turing machine's model of computation, if and only if it is witnessed in a Turing machine. Okay, so this looks like this is a 3-part philosophical kind of structure. Okay. Every Turing machine either halts or doesn't is not true in this model, because no Turing machines can determine if an arbitrary Turing machine halts. Therefore, F Turing machine is a topos in which the excluded middle does not hold. Okay, so Sean Isherwood is giving trying to give an example of the law of the excluded middle not holding, and using Turing machines as the kind of vehicle for that. I think that I'm going to need to take time, because I don't even know really what that means.
I'm going to need to think a little more there. Yeah. So when I've screwed around with a little bit of argumentation for how the fundamental laws of logic don't always work, oftentimes, I mean, the one that most people go after is the law of excluded middle. It's the one that's the weakest. But oftentimes, to get to the premises that they're utilizing, we have to have the concept that an object can't be both itself and not itself at the same time, right? So, but it's very funky. It's very weird trying to utilize logic in a way that doesn't utilize those 3 aspects of it. But again, from what I've seen, oftentimes it ends up being the case that even in this scenario where it seems like the excluded middle might be shaky, it still has to exist. But again, I'm sure not an expert. I'd need a lot more time to fuck with it.
No, my first blush is it sounds like you're describing indeterminacy.
Yeah.
And indeterminacy is not a breach of the excluded middle. And I could be absolutely wrong by what you mean by that. But if something cannot be determined, that does not mean that it breaks any of the fundamental laws of logic. But then again, need to give it a little bit more time. I also want to talk about your fundraiser again one more time. Link is in the description. What is it? If we can.
We are helping a wonderful human being, a frontline LGBTQ and atheist critical thinking activist, has been working for years. Let's get Dolly safe. Let's get her in a place where she is able to continue fighting for all these wonderful causes that we agree with, you guys. So help us out if you can. Give $5 if you can. If you can give 5,000, hey, give 5,000. But honestly, just just sharing it out there is one of the biggest things you can do. We have so many incredible people in this community, guys. I know we can fucking do this. So.
Agreed. And again, link is in the description for this video. And Caitlin, we love you. Congratulations. Yay. All right. Elliot, you ready to hop over to the Discord and hang out with people for an after show? Thank you so much for joining me. I love being on with you. It's so much fun.
It's always so exciting. I genuinely enjoy it. I would bug you to be on every single time, you know, but I have that thing in my head where it's like, no, chill out. Don't be a dick, you know, like calm down. Like he'll invite you on again. You talk to him all the time. Don't worry. And it's like, yeah, but like,
but when?
I mean, I could go on. Like, is he going to call me today or is it next week?
I think that we can work something
Maybe we
out.
set up like a regular thing, man.
I think so.
Yeah. I love hanging out with you. We always have such good time, and this wonderful community that you have been developing and supporting is it's amazing. And again, so much of that is because of you directly, right? And then the stuff that's not directly because of you is you like vicariously through you, you know, through other people. So it's a great place. It's a great place to be. Are we going to yell at each other in the after show? Can we do that? Can we? Do we have something to yell at?
I think I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
Okay. All right. It's on.
Sorry, you were being really nice and my brain checked out. Well,
you heard it, guys. Eric and I are going to fight.
My low self-esteem just kind of cuts the breaker after a little bit. Anyway, everybody, hope please have a safe Halloween. And I'll see y'all next week. Bye, everyone.